Well, you have my written testimony. It's in with my introductory testimony too, and I'll let you read that, but I think it's just best if I just tell you what came about and all the thoughts that went through our minds as we studied this huge issue in the state of Wisconsin. Because from the testimony you've heard already, there are so many aspects. Now, we just were focusing on SNAP dollars and doing the double bucks. That's just one small part. As we went through our public hearings, we heard how important it is to teach mothers that are carrying babies how to eat so that the babies aren't born obese and then they grow on, and the importance of breastfeeding compared to bottle feeding, and to help mothers do that. Then through every stage of life, and then we had YMCAs, we had the university extension system, we had the Menominee Nation, as they talked to us about the different specific localities and the foods that needed to be part of a particular locality's needs. We worked with inner city Milwaukee groups and how they target certain populations, the Hispanic population there, and how they view obesity completely differently than what maybe some other people view obesity, and they see it as actually a beneficial thing and a sign of affluence. And so that there is a thought process that would have to, be changed, behavior changes. How do you change behavior? Because we know, everyone, since we're knee-high onto a duck, we know that sugar is bad for you, don't eat bad stuff, we should exercise. All of these things, we know that, but how do you put that into action? How do you change public behavior? And there are so many good programs from SSM that you will hear a testimony. Dr. Jogo will be here from family resource centers that are doing the Triple P program. That's a positive parenting program. And as part of that program, when you get to a certain stage, then you learn about healthy eating, how to make good recipes for your children. And then you have the dynamics that we're looking at childhood obesity. So if you focus on the child, well, the child really has very little to do with his obesity because he has to eat what mom and dad gives him. He eats what's at the school. And then even if I've taught classes to school children, and I come back later and then I'll say, how are you doing this? And they said, well, I know you said that you should have a healthy breakfast, but mom and dad said they don't have time, so I just get Pop-Tarts. So they're out of control. So you can't just focus on the child alone, you also have to focus on the parent or the guardian. Okay, so we have that group. Well, then we also have the providers that are giving us the help, whether it's a health center, a YMCA, the family resource centers, whether it's the university, the American Heart Association. We listen to testimony from many, many agencies, all of them doing great jobs. So we have that third-party person doing the work, and then we also have the private industry, which, as I heard, especially when I listened to the Double Buck program and realized that there's no state funding going into that. These are communities that are putting the monies into that and soliciting funds, YMCAs that are soliciting private foundations to fund them. How can we involve the private industry? Because when it comes to money, that's really where the money is in the state. We always think the state has these deep pockets. And we don't, because all of you are fellow representatives. You know how many demands there are upon the state budget, and we can't meet them all. So how do we involve the private sector, because the private sector has the deeper pockets, and bring them along into this childhood obesity problem? And then lastly, we have the state of Wisconsin, because we see the overarching problem, and how can we pull together, organize it, be focused to be able to do something in this childhood obesity program. So this is what these two bills are about. One's the appropriations bill for it, but the main bill is what I call the umbrella bill. How to take all these different groups that are doing wonderful jobs, but all of them are underfunded. In our public hearings, we heard it over and over and over. We don't have enough money, and then one of the things that they always said is that we can apply for grants. There's federal grants. There are some state grants for different things. There's even some county grants. And so they almost always have a full-time person that all they do is write grants, because the grant money is going to run out in a year or 2 years or 5 years, whatever the grant was for. And then it's like, oh no, our whole program that we just got started and we're just starting to see results, it's all going to die now because we don't have the renewal of funding. So you have to spend so much time and effort into rewriting grants and getting money from someplace. And so as we contemplated this, how can we help all these situations to be able to get the money to help fund these various and all kinds of different ways to address the childhood obesity problem in one way. And so the idea was to establish a grant program. This grant program, though, is somewhat unique than from other grant programs, is that, yes, the state would be investing and providing seed money, and this is to the tune of $5 million is what we've asked for an appropriation. And that money then would go to whatever organization is working on the childhood obesity program, whether that's a breastfeeding program or whether that's a school nutrition program or that is a gym program with a Planet Fitness, and I'm just throwing a name out there. I'm not trying to, because everybody knows what Planet Fitness is. They have also talked to us about this. They were some of the people that testified. And that they have some program, but there's not the funding for it. And so that this grant, though, would require a 25% match. That's not unusual to have a match. But the 25% match has to come from the private industry, not from a federal grant that you also got. One of the grants, like the federal government is handing out HOPS grants, which are for obese populations, and we actually have 2 HOPS grants that were granted in the state of Wisconsin, because we are considered one of the most obese states. That's just an aside. But not federal money, not any county money or other governmental money, but from the private industry, because then that will motivate the individual organization to go out and solicit funds from a private industry, whether that is a restaurant, whether that's a quick trip, whether that's the local pizza shop, or whatever it is to help us with our mission, our particular mission in fighting childhood obesity in this particular avenue. So the grant requires 25% to qualify for the grant. 25% you would have to match. The organization has to match with private funds. And when the grant is up for renewal, it's a 2-year grant. If you maintain that 25% private funding, then you would be automatically renewed. Now, that is given that the legislator renews funding for this program. That is just where it is going to assume that. So these entities that spend so much time writing the grant, if they just keep their 25% private funding, they automatically are going to get renewed. And then if they increase the amount of their private funding, so let's say I got 50% of my funding from private industry, then we would even increase and look at increasing the grant amount that you got from the state. You'll say, isn't that sort of like a double dip? No, it's because they are so successful, and I'll come to the reporting thing in a minute. They're so successful that their program is working. We want them to expand it. We want them to upscale it and take it to the next community. I would love to see 16th Street in Milwaukee. They're doing a great job to have enough funds to be able to take this to the next community over. And so there we have the state commitment, and then the individual commitment. There's these 4 groups of people. The individual and the parent, they go together. There's a commitment on their part because they're going to be receiving these services for free. This is not something they're going to pay for to be a part of whatever the program is. They're receiving the services for free. So what is their skin in the game? What makes them, not just taking advantage of something? It's because they have to be willing to provide data that would not be identified about, did their child lose weight? Did their triglycerides? You heard the American Heart Association lady that, talked about the high triglycerides in these children. That was something else we found out in these public hearings. We don't have any data. Does the program work? We asked Gunderson Health at one of those. So, it's working? Did their triglycerides go down? Did, the incidence of diabetes, because obesity leads to diabetes, did that? So we don't have any data. We don't have any data, and we don't have a way to gather it. So that is all wrapped up into this bill too. So the individuals and their parents, that one group of people, yes, you get the benefit, but would you be willing, you have to say you're willing to provide the health data so that we can see if this program is working or not. Of course, it will be unidentified. We all know the HIPAA regulations, so it's just data that we gather. The second entity that is involved, their incentive and their commitment, of course, is the people that are doing the program. So whatever health clinic or whatever YMCA, they are receiving the monies, but then they also have to show that their program is successful, because we don't want to fund something that is a dud. It's not going to go anywhere. So they then report and say, okay, we had this many people enrolled and we've gathered the data and we are seeing an average weight loss or whatever it is. So those figures would all be given to the executive branch administrative agency, which will be the DHS. The next group is the private industry. Well, I made such an emphasis on tapping into the private world for those funding. So what's their benefit? So they're helping out by giving in kind or just giving donations to these different organizations, is that they would be able to take a tax deduction. Because, for instance, I'm opening a healthy pizza shop in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. And so you can have the regular pizza, or you can get the gluten-free, or you get the cauliflower crust, or you can get the bean crust. You guys all know I'm going to have a bean crust. Yes, made out of bean flour. And then if you don't want to have the cheese, there are some people that are allergic to cheese, well, then you can get the non-dairy cheese. And then with every single pizza comes carrot sticks. What pizza joint do you go to that you get? And it's not that you have to order them. No, they come with the pizza. And most people, if you're looking at a little, pile of carrot sticks, you're going to eat the carrot sticks because they're there. You don't just throw them away. Now, you can order a salad too and pay for that. Well, so what am I doing as a private industry? So I am providing that, but I have already told the Family Resource Center in Eau Claire, they have a triple P program that helps parents train up their children. And part of that is reducing childhood obesity. They teach them how to eat well and teach your parents how to eat well. So I've already committed to them. If the parents attend the Triple P program, you just have to give me a little slip of paper and you can bring it down to Cricket's Pizza. That's the name of my restaurant, Cricket's Pizza. And it's because our mascot for the school team is Crickets. We're the Fall Creek Crickets. Anyway, so Cricket's Pizza, you bring it down and your whole family gets a free meal because you attended the Triple P program. So how do I take a tax deduction on that? I don't. It's just, I'm just giving away free food. But under this bill, then organizations like that, they're able to take that as a tax deduction. And so that's the incentive for private industry, to whether it's in kind or whether it's an actual cash donation, to be able to want to be a part of these programs to reduce childhood obesity. And so then we're back to the fourth player, which is the state of Wisconsin. And what do we get out of it? Is the state of Wisconsin is providing, this little seed money to try to make this grow and go. We get a healthier Wisconsin. If we get a healthier Wisconsin, all life is better. I listened to the first bill that you listened to this morning about those that are incarcerated and the psychotic episodes. It's just like, we need to help them. How do we help them? Well, if we can raise healthy kids to grow into healthy adults, then we don't get to, some of the problems that we see later on. So this program is, I think, is unique and addresses not just the obvious, you have to eat right and you have to exercise. We all know that, but there are so many things involved in obesity. Mental health is a big part of it. We all know we're human beings. What happens when you're depressed or anxious? What's the first thing you do? Is you eat. What do you eat? Well, I tell you, it's not going to be carrot sticks. It's going to be what you said, Representative Rosar, the stuff that was advertised for cheaper, and it's junk food, because that's how we comfort ourselves. And what do you do when you're depressed? Most people don't get out there and go play basketball or volleyball. No, they get on their screen and they do this. And that's how we deal with things. And so this can help in so many different ways just to make us a healthier, physically and mentally Wisconsin.